r/ask Reddit. What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? History teacher disappeared in the night with the French teacher's wife, and the other French teacher made national news for sexually abusing boys. Well, French is the language of love. Yeah, I can imagine speaking French was a big part of the attraction. Probably lots of Français flirting, which led to more time spent together and eventually a full-on relationship. And the rest? Well, the rest is history. Probably the time a girl gave a guy a BJ in the bathroom. The guy filmed it and sent it to his friend. His friend sent all around the school. Eventually the police had to get involved because the one guy was guilty of distribution of child pornography. Had something similar happen at my school, but since it was a private Catholic school, the girl was brought in front of the whole school board for essentially a trial and was expelled. The boys didn't even get detention. Edit. Thank you for the wholesome award, although that is the last word I would use to describe my Catholic school experience. That's ducked up. My scenario was like the opposite. One guy was expelled, the other suspended, and the girl didn't get anything. This was in a public Catholic school, so I don't know. My high school guidance counselor ducked a science teacher's wife and everyone knew about it. They got a divorce. Both teachers still work at the same school to this day, and students will never ever let it go. The story has been handed down from year to year. Kids are brutal. We must never let our history die, must we? A teacher had an affair with the students. She was arrested and released on bail. Then a few days later she sent an email to other teachers saying it wasn't an affair, but that she was actually being raped by the student and blackmailed. She even attached screenshots of texts. Later that day, she murdered her husband and committed suicide. Edit. Whoa. This has really blown up. A few people have linked articles in the comments if you are curious. Merry Christmas everyone. It's the most wonderful time of the year. The lunch lady was having sex with students and buying them alcohol. Here's a link to the article if anybody is interested. https://www.nedailynews.com News National VT Cafeteria worker arrested sex teen students Article 1. 2,859,043. I'm surprised they said she sexually assaulted them instead of slept with them, actually taking it seriously like they should. A kid in my senior year short story class, who sat directly behind me, was charged with the stabbing, beheading and burning of one of his friend's drug dealer. I remember the day like it was yesterday, sitting in my short story class when my teacher came in tears because she just heard the news. Students didn't find out about it until later. I actually have a friend who testified in his trial because he purchased the murdering materials at the hardware store she worked at. Crazy, man. Did some googling. Is this in Michigan? Sure is. When in middle school, the school forced us to give our phones to the vice principal, and they would stay there locked during the day. They got stolen. Around 120 smartphones. Edit. Changed president to principal. Please don't bully me anymore, Mayo. This locking up can backfire. One year we got together and all agreed to set an alarm on our phones for the same time, at max volume. After that they just said the phones had to be turned off, though. Nope, should have set them to 5 minutes apart so they don't go quiet at the same time. The Harlem Shake was a craze. We had an array teacher who desperately enjoyed being the popular teacher, so he got in on the craze. Invited 40 pupils from my year to his classroom at lunch and filmed his own Harlem Shake video, which in itself would have been against safeguarding rules. Thing is, he also taught sex ed, so everyone got into his cupboard before the start of the video for props. The video was essentially a group of 14-year-olds throwing dildos and condoms around the room while he, of his own accord, grinded on a life-size cutout of the poop. He was suspended under investigation for half a year but surprisingly kept his job. He was a lot more professional when he returned. Why the poop? Why did he have a life-size pope to begin with? And what was he demonstrated? How to get excommunicated from the church. Open bracket. Edit. Thank you for my first silver and most upvoted comment, kind strangers. Where did your school keep its life-sized cutout of the poop, if not the sex ed classroom? Kid in my class sent an email to the White House, threatening to kill Socks, the Clintons' cat. Secret Service showed up a few days later after they tracked down the computer. Edit to add. Link to the article, https://www. A post bulletin. Incoming Clinton email threat traced to student article 7D77898 CC7A4-5FD0 9411 03 5925 B1601 HTML. Did he get any punishment? Lifetime ban from ever working for the government. He was on the military track too, but they ripped up his contract. First week of high school. Pay class. The first section was swim. Wasn't my class, but the class after. This kid was playing a game with his friends in the water. Who could hold their breath the longest? He was going up for air and hit head on the pointy part of the gutter, and never made it to the surface. Friends didn't notice. Teacher didn't notice. Eventually football players coming back to the locker rooms noticed. He ended up dying. Teacher was fired, although I wouldn't fully blame him as he was attending and teaching kids who didn't know how to swim or weren't strong swimmers. One adult for over 60 kids? That's the school's fault. I understand the teacher not noticing, but the friends who were directly competing with the kid didn't notice? Must have thought he was pretty darn good at breath holding. Student brutally murdered his parents. He was a friend and co-captain of the soccer team. His mom was my English teacher. Story. Sorry to hear that, mate. The 30ish theater teacher ran off with a recent grad. I was kind of pals with the student during a play the spring before the scandal, and she hosted the cast party where in retrospect, they seemed a little cozier than appropriate. As much as I'm dying for the inside scoop, I can't imagine friending her on social media and asking, so what was up with you and Mr. ? It has to be done if you want to know. During middle school, a few kids sold weed and someone that bought some smoked it in the building, which was just stupid. The kid that sold it to him didn't want to get in trouble, so he pulled the fire alarm so people wouldn't find the kid. We all got to go home afterwards. Honestly, that's some pretty quick thinking. Obviously not very responsible. But the kid that pulled the fire alarm had some pretty sharp self-preservation instincts. Plus, if he got crap for pulling a false alarm, he can legitimately say that he saw smoke. When the religion teacher cheated on her husband with the math teacher. Ironic. She could save others from adultery, but not herself. A girl in my middle school was telling people she had a hit list of people she was going to kill. Got caught with the list, and was sent to a hospital for a while. She came back a few years later in high school. Edit. Seems like a lot of people had a similar occurrence in school. This was in Michigan. I also had a hit list in middle school because I was a dumbass. It was a group of about 30 guys that would come to school and play a kind of tag game. If you were tagged during the day, you were assassinated and the game was over until the next day. My dumbass made a hit list with everyone's name on it. Needless to say, this alerted the principal. Edit. We got a talking to, but we weren't in serious trouble. We used to play a similar game using camera phones when they first came out. The kill was made by taking a photo without the victim being aware of it. Lots of us acting strangely in town, looking over shoulders and ducking behind parked cars. No list, but we were given a bit of a talking to as the college thought there was some intricate form of bullying going on. Long story short, the principal got arrested for hiding cameras in the bathroom. This was back in elementary. He was a total ducking creep. What the duck, shocked at how many pedo stories there are. Well, honestly, there aren't that many things that qualify as worst scandal. Many interesting things happened. Not so many of them caused shit to fly. Hell, if I hadn't seen it, I would never have known a teacher broke up a fight by running outside brandishing a hammer. We had a bomb scare that evacuated the school, and the boat cruise company we like to use for grad finally issued a permanent ban when someone unbolted a toilet tank and threw it overboard. But I wouldn't really count any of it as a big scandal. Give me a board funneling tons money or a pedo and that's going to get you an answer. Anything else is probably minor or getting covered up. Two things. Both in middle school. I was at home on a Sunday watching the news with my mom when all of a sudden my 6th grade teacher's mugshot showed up, and it said that her and her husband were pulled over and the police found like 6 pounds of high grade weed. Led to a search warrant for their home, and they literally slept on her inflatable mattress. The whole house was a grow up. She did look like a hippie, but I don't understand. She was not mellow at all. She was a beach. In 8th grade. One of my friend's parents had cancer. He thought it was a good idea to bring some of their meds to school and hand them out like candy. These were strong meds. And not all of them were pain pills. At least 5 kids overdosed, 2 of them had seizures. No one died thankfully. Edit. I know my grammar isn't the best. I'm no English major, but goddamn people. This is Reddit, not my English paper. I still get where you're coming from though. So I fixed it. Kind of. First one quite funny lol. Second lucky no one died. Ha, the first one sounds like the more realistic version of Breaking Bad. I was in 4th or 5th grade and someone sketched in the middle school bathroom not to go on school Friday or I will bang bang. This was then brought to the attention of the county and state police and we didn't have school that day and the police searched everyone's lockers for a firearm. Edit. This was in Pennsylvania. They were never caught and I do not believe they found a weapon. This was also at Derry area middle school while I was at Grandview 4 elementary. Wow, how old is that? I'm from UK so not familiar with grade system, like 7-8 years old. 9 to 11 years old. In middle school. 8th grade early 2000s. One of the hot girls sent a couple nude pictures to her BF and it wasn't long until half the school had them. Police ended up becoming involved to make sure any all copies were destroyed. In high school there was a little scandal involving the teachers and a teachers club called the Hot Tub Club. Faculty members that had hot tubs would host a weekly hot tub party with other hot tub owners. Turns out they were all getting wasted and having a swinging party every Wednesday. Somebody's spouse found out about it and there was a huge exodus of hot tub teachers my senior year. Edit. The main people involved with the photo were reprimanded but not charged. The girl had a sit down with a counselor to discuss what happened. And we all had a big assembly to discuss the consequences that could happen if people shared those kind of images. It scared a lot of kids straight. Nobody was fired from the school for being in the hot tub club. Teachers left because it was convenient timing with the opening of another high school. And there was constant babble about it. Just for clarity, this all happened in a small town in Western Canada. By the looks of my inbox, both are not uncommon occurrences. How do you even start a swingers club with your coworkers? How does that conversation even happen? Hey Jerry, I've seen you looking up my wife. And yours isn't too bad looking either. What say you we do some swinging next Wednesday? The caretaker killed 2 local girls and hid them in the school. He tried using the clay kiln to burn them. He later dumped them a few miles away. What the duck, when was this? I am guessing OP is referring to the Soham murders. It happened in August 2002. Thankfully, the guy who did it is rotting in prison. Headmaster was sent to prison for being a pedophile. Edit. Whoever gave this a wholesome award. Y'all good? One of our teachers, beloved by his students, had a shit ton of CP on his computer. Many of my friends said he made them feel safe and was really cool, but a bit touchy. We had a similar thing with him. He was seen as fun or playful, bearing in mind this was primary school, ages 5-11 for the Americans reading, so we never thought anything of it and our parents didn't either. He was caught as I moved into high school. Everyone was shocked by it. Sophomore year, a girl in my grade passed on a solid yellow up a hill, hit a family in a car and killed both parents and one of the kids. A week later she's back at school in a brand new pickup truck, and never faced any sort of trial or anything. Her parents were extremely large farmers in the small rural town and had influence in the local court systems, I'm sure. Oh, did I mention she excitedly showed off her new truck when she came back? Duck you, Taylor. Duck Taylor. Yep, duck you, Taylor. A girl died in the pool during an event at the school. The swim teacher was blamed and was prosecuted. The girl who died was at my sister's class. Both were 7 at the time. That happened over 10 years ago. But the parents haven't had another child since. She was their only kid. That's horrible. Poor people. The entire 11th grade of my school visits a concentration camp each year. And 2 years ago someone brought weed. So 20 students were expelled and 15 suspended. Even the police got involved. Weed isn't legal yet here. How did 35 people get in trouble? How much weed did he bring? Maybe no one would rat on who brought it. Kid made a chlorine bomb and threw it in the trash can at lunch. Lockdown. Bomb squad. Every single kid and faculty member out on the field in 95 degrees weather for 2+ hours until parents could show up to pick up their kids. What the duck is wrong with people? This was middle school, so he got expelled and arrested after. 2 years later in high school he's back to school built like a ducking MMA fighter. Full beard and shaved head at 16. Nobody ever said shit to him or ducked with him in any way. A girl gave a guy a BJ behind a building. Her braces got stuck on his dong. He pulls back. Dong bleeding. Punches her in the mouth. She goes and tells the principal. Parents get called in. He yells, "She cut my dong," while the door was open. Everyone knew then. She goes and tells the principal. What does she even say? "I blew a guy behind the building. Accidentally cut him. And he punched me in the face." Classic story. A guy in year 10 made a statement that the more compact a group of people are, the higher the death toll would be in a shooting, and we were genuinely talking about shootings and somehow people mistook it that he was gonna do it. It was a joke and everyone was playing along at first. Cut to 11 months later. He was in year 11. The whole school knows. Rumors got out. The truth was beyond ducking twisted and changed to something different. Kids were actually scared to come in. Parents were pissed. Teachers were anxious. They had to search the kid. They kicked him out 9 days before he finished for good. Was still allowed to do exams but had to do separately from everyone else. The police were involved and it made the news, but the news article is complete fake and bullshit. He also wasn't allowed to prom. This was around 4-5 years ago. He told me he was doing a lot better now. He went to a better school for 6th form. He says whilst he has moved on with his life, he will never forgive the bastards. Also, we live in England and guns are much harder to get, especially to the average person who knows nothing about how to get guns. That's ducking horrible, poor lad. Glad he moved somewhere better. You take the kid you suspect of being an angry, isolated person willing to lash out, and you isolate him further and make his life a living hell. Makes sense. An overachieving student in my year went nuts and pooped in a bag in a teacher's classroom. She also thought she could run up trees. Turns out she didn't, end up skipping a few years and going to uni early like she was predicted to do. The balance of genius is on a very thin edge. A kid in my school who was very smart, got great grades, but also a kinda weird guy ended up having some sort of psychotic break while staying up for days on end working on a pretty big assignment for a class I had with him. He was already going above and beyond by making a very detailed video rather than a PowerPoint like everyone else. But before he even played the video for the class, he went on this super bizarre tirade about the meaning of life and all this existential stuff that made no sense for around 30 minutes before the teacher finally got him to stop. Later that night he was apparently knocking on random doors at 2 AM trying to give the people in those homes the same weird speech. Then he went to a psych ward and I haven't heard about him since. Some dude with a tiny little pecker sent a picture of it, unsolicited, to a girl, and she sent it to all his friends. Wasn't long before like half the school had seen it. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.